Hey, it's Brewbird. In this video, we're going to In the Welsh Wind, where I'm testing out the iStill Mini. iStill is a company founded in 2012 that specializes in manufacturing innovative and modern distilling equipment. So let's go check out the iStill Mini.
Start your computations.
The iStill Mini is an experimental model for recipe development, which distillers can then scale up for the larger models that are 1,000 to 5,000 liters in capacity. You can mash, ferment, and distill all in the same vessel without having to transfer the liquid anywhere else. This is pretty cool, since in traditional distilleries, you have a mashing vessel, a fermentation vessel, and then a set of stills for distillation. The money adds up quite a bit when you have to purchase so much equipment, so this is a very cost-effective unit. I have this mini model here, which has a net capacity of 6 liters. I've got it here just to play around with and experiment on. I happen to have some malt lying around, so I decided to try mashing, fermenting, and distilling in the iStill Mini. First, I measure out the malt and water. I pour the water in the pot and bring it up to a strike temperature of 77 degrees Celsius. When I add in the malts, the temperature of the water will go down, so I expect when the grain is added, the actual mashing in temperature will be around 65 degrees Celsius. That's my guess. But since this is my first test run, I may have to adjust that temperature in future tests. Once I hit my strike temperature, I start slowly adding in the malt and mixing it gently with a spoon to break up any dry pockets of grain. Then I put the lid on and let it sit at that temperature for around 60 minutes to allow the starches in the malt to convert into fermentable sugars. After 60 minutes elapsed, I realized I needed to find a way to quickly cool down the wort. So at first, I opened the valve on the front and drained out some of the wort and passed it through a jug back and forth to aerate it and quickly cool it down. Then I thought it was taking too long, so I decided to just put in a liter's worth of ice cubes into it to bring the temperature down to about 30 degrees Celsius. You'll also notice I put this white bag over the pot of the still. Initially, I did the mash without this mesh bag, but cleaning the pot was kind of a nightmare, and grain got stuck in the spout opening and in the heating element too. The ice has all melted and the dried yeast has been rehydrated and pitched into the pot. Now I'll put the lid on and let it ferment. The method I used to do the mash and fermentation wasn't optimal, but it was the best I could come up with at the time. So I'm not expecting a very high spirit yield when I go and distill this. It's been 3 days. You can see the grain has fallen down to the bottom of the pot, and it's ready for the still run. The column is very high and I'm filling it with copper spiral prismatic packing, since the copper will react with the wash that I've made and take away the bad sulfurous flavors that I don't want in my final spirit.
I think we're getting into a weird area here.
This is the reflux valve. I can turn it to the right so less vapor gets through, or to the left to allow more vapor through. Once the spirit vapor passes through here, it travels through the condenser and is cooled down into liquid form. It will go through this tubing and I'll collect it in a series of shot glasses I've lined up on the table. I'm collecting the spirit in a series of small glasses rather than one big one, so I can better assess each section of the run. This hose that I'm fitting onto the column is for the cooling water to come through. As you can see, it starts filling up in this section. and then will overflow out and up into another section before leaving through the water outlet pipe here. Let me just turn the water on to see if any of the pipes leak. Nope, it looks good, so I turn the heat on through this power manager box. I set the heat to 100%, and now I've taken my phone out. The cool thing about the iStill Mini is that you can connect it to your phone through an app which records data throughout the distillation. You'll see I have 3 temperature probes inserted in different sections of the still. I'm going to pull up the app and press start. The vertical axis represents temperature and the x-axis on the graph represents time. I have 2 graphs here, so one is for the temperature probe at the bottom in the pot, and the other one is for the temperature probe at the highest point on the column. It's been around 10 minutes and it's started to collect spirit. Oh my goodness, it's blue. I just remembered that I forgot to put in the Antifoam, so the wash from the pot must have just flooded the column and come out. I did the mash same as before, but this time I remembered the Antifoam. And now it's time for the distillation. It started collecting spirit, which was clear, and then the same thing happened where some blue tinge wash was collected. I think I put too much packing material in the column, so I'll decrease it to the level of the second thermometer probe next time and open the valve a little bit more so there's less reflux happening. This time the temperature spiked up very high suddenly and then the still flooded over. It's very hard for me to control the temperature. I didn't know what was going on, so I went to the iStill Academy website where there's a series of videos on how to run the still. And it says there, for a final run, you should only set the power manager to a max of 50%. Oh man. This time I got a little sample of wash brought in, which I poured into the pot. It took an hour to start collecting, but when I looked at my app, the temperature rose more gradually, and so I wasn't seeing the sudden spike in temperature that I noticed initially, followed by the spilling over of wash. Here you can see the collection of spirit is clear all the way through the collection. It does start to get a little bit cloudy looking over time, but that's normal and not the same as the flooding that we saw in the earlier distillations. I hope you enjoyed watching me experiment on the iStill Mini. Please support the channel by giving this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button for more distilling and distillery videos. This is Brewbird, sending good vibes your way. I'll see you next time.
I think we're getting into a weird area here.